Preseason fun. Both teams go their regular rotation down to the wire. The game goes to the final shot. The Jazz come out ahead, and a lot to learn from it. And way too many turnovers. It's next on POSTCAST.
You are Locked On Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
David Locke along with Ron Boone after the Utah Jazz beat the Sacramento Kings 117-114 in a game where the Kings only played 8 guys in the second half, other than not having Trey Lyles and Kevin Huerter, which is just how life works in the regular season. The Jazz played 10 guys, played an absolute regular rotation tonight. Game went down to the wire. Fun game. Jazz led by as many as 10 at one point. Kings never led by more than 4. Both teams took this game very seriously. It was high-paced. It was fun. It was energetic. This was a good night. A lot to learn.
Good test for the Jazz, and this, as you mentioned, yes, this was the ball game they played in. It wasn't like they were experimenting and looking for guys in certain positions, stuff like that. It looked like Will and Mike Brown had their idea of a rotation that they wanted to play with tonight, and that's exactly what happened.
All right, so when you watch this one, I think what jumps out to us, I mean, Sabonis has this monster line tonight of 29 points, 16 rebounds, and 8 assists, so it would be awfully hard, it feels like, to say, well, Walker Kessler was great. But I actually think the biggest takeaway you had, at least during commercial breaks to me tonight, was, this Walker Kessler we're watching in the preseason feels real and feels different.
Yeah, it definitely feels different, and he's playing longer, I think, and I like the movement. I mean, there was a couple of times he was moving without the basketball, got one dunk. The other time he cut without the basketball. He was, can't remember who actually fed him the ball, but he finished with a layup on the opposite side of the rim. So if that Walker Kessler is going to be make the defense, the opponents play a different style of defense with him on the floor.
So the Jazz shot it great all night. In fact, if you walk through it, if you look at their effective field goal percentage, the Jazz effective field goal percentage in the first quarter was 81%. It was 74 by the second quarter, 68 by the third. They were 11-11 by the rim. They just shot it brilliantly. The final number tonight from three-point range, the Jazz finished 14 of 35, 40%. Overall, they shot 54%. They shot 90% from the line. How did they not win this game by more than 3?
Turnovers.
Oh, yeah. That little thing right there.
24
turnovers tonight, Ron Boone.
25 for 32 points off of those turnovers.
What's your thought on the 25 Jazz turnovers? And the story I've been telling everyone, Ron, is that we're going to have turnovers because you have young guards like Keyonte George and Isaiah Collier. But that wasn't the reason, was it?
Yeah, two of our veteran players and two of our star players for the most part, with 6 and 5 turnovers. 11 of the 25 turnovers came from 2 guys, and that'd be Lauri Markkanen and Jordan Clarkson. They were turning the ball over for the most part in the paint because they're driving to the basket, and that lane just closes up with him. And you can see why they try to score in transition a lot off the turnovers.
The Jazz hold it together. Sabonis was just kind of, a beast down low, but he starts the night 8 for 9, and then he finishes the night 2 for his final 11. So
23 points in that first half.
Tip of the hat, and I think John Collins defended him better. And then the other one I would say is that Will Hardy seemed to match Walker Kessler's minutes with Domantas Sabonis.
Yeah, which makes a huge difference. And you've heard so many coaches talk about the aggressiveness and how hard Sabonis works in the lane, and we saw that tonight. The pump fakes. I mean, he just gives you so many different fakes and foot movement and all that kind of stuff. Sooner or later, guys are going to go for one of them. If they don't, then he's going to score through him.
All right, let's talk about Keyonte George. He played against De'Aaron Fox tonight. Keyonte played 30 minutes, 7 of 14, 3 of 10 from 3, 7 of 7 from the line, 5 assists, 24 points. I like a lot of what I'm seeing out of Keyonte George so far right now.
I do too, and I think what we're liking as well, because you and I was sitting on the sidelines, and I think it was in Dallas, maybe. No, it may have been San Antonio.
Shoot around in San Antonio.
Yes, and he was very, very, very vocal. Probably as vocal as we've heard him from last year to this year.
Yeah.
And so you can see that the difference in him is definitely going to be from that standpoint.
Let's dig into this a little bit. So
Will's asked Key to increase his voice. Key knew he wasn't playing in San Antonio. Instead of taking shoot around off, he literally was on, instead of being on the baseline, he was on the sideline. He was yelling out instructions. He was directing guys. He actually then, I think in that shoot around's also where he and Jordan Clarkson worked on how to create space together. Like, it was him using those moments to his massive productivity, but also showing some real leadership of the team. I thought that was it's an important moment for that we are fortunate enough to see and to be able to relay that and to see that growth from Keyonte. We're seeing that obvious on the floor as well. Those moments in the shoot around are what's parlaying out on the floor.
I totally agree, David. And I'm while you were describing that, I'm going back to some of the coaches I had with and some of the point guards that you play with. The duties of a point guard is to know everything that's going on the floor, including every position and where you're supposed to be. And I think Keyonte is learning that. From listening to him in San Antonio, he wasn't just screaming at one player. He was talking to everybody out there on the floor, like where they're supposed to be. But that point guard is the leader. I mean, he knows where every guy's supposed to be on the floor, what kind of route you're supposed to run and all that kind of stuff. So I think that's what we're seeing.
All right, let's go to one of the themes of the year is learning about the 7 young players.
Mm-hmm.
The 7 guys are 23 and under. We've talked about Walker and Key. Those are the 2 who have the most experience. And so we're interested in seeing what happens this year with Bryce Sensabaugh and Taylor Hendricks and Cody Williams and Isaiah Collier. And Isaiah Collier didn't play tonight because of the hamstring. I really think what we saw tonight is what I would call quality minutes from that group and what you should expect to see from them. It's not going to be that they get 36 minutes and they get the ball. It's they're on the floor, they're playing with guys, they're getting the experience, they're having moments. Taylor Hendricks had a massive dunk and an isolation at the elbow. Cody Williams closed the game defensively. Bryce Sensabaugh made some big plays. Like this, if you look at it, I think Taylor ends up playing 28 minutes. Cody plays 20. Bryce Sensabaugh plays 15. Like those are the valuable minutes, and that's I think what we're seeing out of these. This was a good example of what I think we'll see out of the young guys this year.
Yeah, and we've talked about this many times about the minutes that players like that need in order to be effective out there on the floor, to the point where they're not playing not to make a mistake, and you get better. And also, David, you're looking at guys, sooner or later, those guys separate themselves either for the good or for the bad. And that's how you get minutes on the floor.
This league is really wonderful right now because every team has a story, and some of the stories are most interesting. One of the most interesting stories in the league is how is Klay Thompson going to work in Dallas? We got to see that firsthand. One of the most interesting stories in the league is what is Victor Wembanyama year 2 going to be? Unfortunately, we didn't get to see that. One of the other interesting stories is how does DeMar DeRozan fit in Sacramento? What is your thought after watching tonight of how DeMar DeRozan fits in Sacramento?
I think he'll be just fine. I mean, he's going to a new system. I don't think he's ever played on a team that at least played defense the way they're playing right now. And the only adjustment he has to make is that he'll probably go from taking 20 shots a game maybe to 13. And then the type of shots that will he be able to get? Will they be the quality shots, those in-paint type shots that he normally gets? If he does that, then he's going to shoot a great percentage. He's going to help his team. He's not a three-point shooter. I think of the 3 preseason games that they played, he's taken 5. So he's not looking to do it.
I think what's interesting on DeRozan, I do think the little thing you mentioned there, you just slid through, I think is going to be a bigger issue. And that is he takes 17 shots a game last year, scored 25 points a game. He went to the free throw line 7 times. I think he still thinks he's getting 17 shots a game and going to the free throw line 7 times. And I'm curious to see where those shots come from.
That's a good point.
And that's the only question I have. I get how it fits. I think Sabonis is the fulcrum. They'll run handoffs. They'll run some pick and roll. They'll figure out what is best. The opening play of the second half was a handoff from Sabonis to DeRozan. He laid it up, and Sabonis gave a double Finch clutch. It was very clear, like that was an important play to them tonight. They're going to figure those things out. It gives them 48 minutes of scoring if they work the rotation right with Fox and DeRozan. I think but it's still going to be a little question to me where all those shots are coming from.
And how long it takes him to make that adjustment for the most part.
That'll be it.
I don't think he's played with a team that plays as fast as this team, and especially in the half court, because it's constant movement. He watched the Sacramento Kings play like that. He watched the Golden State Warriors play like that. that's an adjustment he's going to have to make.
They're a fascinating team. They went from the number 1 offense in the NBA to the 14th. Slid badly. They stopped going to the rim. They stopped going to the free throw line last year, and that just made them slip. They went from 26th in the league defensively to 18th, which was great. They started denying the rim. They were the 4th best team in the league at denying the rim. Defensively, they stopped fouling, probably played a little bit of a shell. So it'll be interesting to see where Mike Brown has them this upcoming year. He got a lot of what he wanted last year, and then they didn't get out of the play and losing to the Pelicans in that one. So they'll be a fascinating team to watch. The Jazz tonight, I think this is a good example of what you hope to see all season long from them. The youngsters all got big, important minutes. Really interesting storyline that Cody Williams finished the game tonight. Will Hardy in the pregame meeting was exuberant with his praise of Cody Williams and his understanding and his learning and his picking things up. And I think he's probably our best on-ball defender on the roster right now. And so you saw him come in the game to take care of DeMar DeRozan or De'Aaron Fox, depending on the possession defensively. So I thought that was super interesting to see as well. So really a fun night tonight here in Salt Lake City. Thanks for joining us, POSTCAST. Ron and I will be doing this after every game all season long here on Locked On Jazz. So make sure you subscribe on YouTube. As Lacey says, please give us some likes. That makes us happy. We like that very, very much. We're not doing stars. It's the preseason. We'll be doing them during the regular season. Lacey can get her count going. But thank you all for joining us. Locked On Jazz will come to you tomorrow morning. We'll be back at regular on our show tomorrow, and then we'll start our preview segments. I'll look at the 240 minutes, what rosters actually have 240 minutes of players starting for you on Thursday and Friday, and we'll do points gained on Monday and Tuesday as we get ready for the regular season with a preview for the Memphis Grizzlies on Wednesday. On behalf of Ron, I'm David. Thanks very much for joining us. This has been POSTCAST here on Locked On Jazz. For those of you on audio, check out Locked On NBA, bringing you all the action after every game with Locked On NBA Game Night. And on video, we'll send you the first ever national sports channel, Locked On Sports Today.